campaign activist.
Some people in town say the base is run by aliens working with our federal government to conduct mind control and genetic experiments.
I'm leaving. I'm glad. Thanks a lot, society, for railroading my ass.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another bonus episode of the Eerie Americas. This is Vicky Ayala.
And this is Kristi Hall. What's up, peeps?
What's up? What's up? So excited to do another bonus episode as we promised. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the last one. I saw a lot of people, I thought people were like kind of forget about us, but good to see you guys have it. That was super exciting.
And we've actually really missed recording and, being here regularly. So it's when it's like a holiday, we're like, no, we're definitely going to drop a few episodes because the holidays are coming up. It's giving us a lot of time to get our stuff together, figure out the madness, start with the drama and the family, the whole process that is the holidays.
Oh, yes, the whole process that is. We're still reeling from Thanksgiving.
And there's already Christmas drama and on top of the Thanksgiving drama, like it's like the perfect trifecta because it's like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and then New Year's. It's like 3 holidays squished in like 6 weeks, not even like 5. And it's just so stressful. And by the time you get to New Year's, you're just like, I want to blow my brains out with alcohol.
Right. And that's why, I think people are always so excited for New Year's and nobody's actually excited to go into a new year. We're just so done with the last 5 weeks of this year that it's like, just get me into the next year.
Yeah, you're just like, I did the holidays. Can this be over? This is done. And I saw a meme that was perfect. It was like 2019, the first half and the second half felt like 2 completely different.
They did. It felt like completely different years. Sometimes I think about something that happened at the beginning of the year and I cannot believe that that's the same year that I'm in right now. I'm like, there's no way that happened this year. And it did.
I was texting with my brother-in-law's girlfriend, and we were talking about, because for Christmas, some of the family's coming up for Christmas and stuff. And I tried to remember the last time they did the Colorado Christmas. And I was like, yeah, that was last year. And she was like, no, dude, that was 2 Christmases ago. And I'm like, I can't keep track of anything anymore. I forget my age. Things are getting to that point where I'm just like, everything's one fucking giant blur.
It is. It's happening. Some things happened in 2018 and I swore they happened this year. Things that happened this year, I swore were 2 years ago. It's just everything's one big blur. Speaking of the holidays.
Yes.
I actually have a debate question. Well, for only Kristi right now because she's talking, but for those of you at home, and because you've been married for a while, I feel like you can help me with this. So, what exactly is the transition from buying Christmas gifts as a non-married couple, and now that we're married, do we get away with just giving one gift now? Because you couldn't do the whole both of us buying gifts, because we weren't married or anything. We did it, but I feel like we each kind of had separate gifts and we gave them together, but it wasn't one gift and we both put our names on it. And I was really what do we do now that we're married? Are we supposed to do that whole here's one gift from the both of us because we are one kind of thing?
Yes,
what do you do?
Became one, like the Spice Girls said. So you don't have to go and buy 2 different gifts. You become a collective unit. You are now, what would be your celebrity name, the 2 of you? Ricky. You guys would be Ricky. You don't have to give gifts as Ryan and Vicky. Just go from Ricky. But the reverse side is if you decide to do it that way, you can't get mad when someone sends you guys one gift as a couple.
See, that's what I was upset about. So I was speaking to one of my closest friends. She was like, hey, what is Ryan like? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, but I'm not going to get my own gift from you now because you're going to buy us both a gift. You're my friend. And I'm like, but I want my gift.
It doesn't matter.
I don't like it.
So someone asked,
I like the giving part. I don't like the getting part.
Yeah. And so also my brother's girlfriend asked me what I wanted for Christmas. And at Thanksgiving, I asked Charlie's aunt, who's from the Philippines, how she cooks the rice out here, because in higher altitude, rice has been really hard to cook out here. It's something that I don't feel like it's my kind of rice, my level of rice, but she made a really good rice for Thanksgiving. And she's like, don't tell anyone in the Philippines because I'll get kicked out, but I bought a rice cooker. And so...
Dude, you gotta do it. As Latinos, I never believed in it, but dude, rice cooker.
And I am getting a rice cooker, right? So she was asking me, hey, what do you want for Christmas? And so I had to think about it for a few days, and I remember that conversation, and I was like, oh, a rice cooker. And so she's like, okay, a rice cooker, what else? And I'm like, you mean an individual gift? I didn't understand.
Right, you think of it as, what do we need? We need a rice cooker. So it's I thought this was a we gift.
Everything. I need everything on the planet for myself personally, but I was thinking of a collective unit. It's what happens as time goes by. At least that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, no, it's definitely no, I get it.
I also think people are cheap and they're like, no, they're a couple now. Fuck that. We don't have to buy two different gifts.
And you know what? I feel like now, like, I don't know, I guess this is a getting old thing too. It's like people don't get you like cool stuff anymore. It's like, what do I need for the house? Christmas. But it's just like now it's like, what do I need? Rice cooker. It's like, what happened
I
to
know.
us? Our mutual best friend got me like a set of pots and pans, and it was like the most exciting thing that I got that year. And I'm just like, what happened to
Yeah, we're
us?
old.
Christmas sucks, kids. Don't get older.
But happy holidays.
Yes, happy holidays. So we hope everybody enjoys it. And anybody going through family drama, we are definitely going through it
We're
too.
in the same boat, my
We're
friends.
in the same boat.
Remember, yes, you are related to them. Yes, they are crazy, but yes, you are stronger as a result. That's what you keep telling
And
yourself
you just have to get through Christmas, and then you get into go into New Year, and you don't have to see them for a while. I have a Reddit story that actually, in preparation for this recording, I got so excited that I was just like looking up stuff real early on in the week. I've had this Reddit post saved on my phone. I went deep into Reddit because this was posted like 6 years ago, so I went deep.
I love the deep dive into Reddit. It's my favorite.
I did. So this is by Crank Lauza. I was about 15 minutes from finishing the night shift at work when there was a massive crash on one of the windows in the office. So I get up and go check it out. Someone has thrown quite a sizable rock through one of the windows on the front of the building. This is made especially weird because I'm working in the industrial district at 11:30 at night with none of the other businesses open. I go back to my desk, put a quick call through to security to let them know, and decide to head home. As I'm leaving the building, I'm freaking myself out about it more and more and end up running to my car, getting in, and taking off. I'm almost home, and I've started to calm down a bit when I realized that I didn't unlock my car when I got in. It had been unlocked the whole time. I do a quick check with my hand in the back seat for any possible murderers that might be hanging around there, but there's nothing there.
I look at my back seat every single time.
Always check the back seat. Fast forward 30 minutes. I've called a friend of mine who says he is out drinking, so I decide I'm going to join him. I jump on my bike and start riding over. I'm doodling along the road on my bike. It's a nice night, and I'm in no big rush, just enjoying the moonlight when I hear someone riding behind me. I straighten up and stick to one side of the road. He passes me really slowly, and when he is right beside me, he shoots me a smile I can describe as purely fucking insane. I kind of flinch and I'm taken aback as he rides on. That's when I realize he is riding my mom's bike. Needless to say, I sprint the fuck home. When I get there, sure enough, her bike is missing and one of my car's doors is open. The back left one. I was driving and had no need to open that door. Always check the back seat. So someone had been in his back seat, followed him home, and then robbed his house. And robbed his mom's bike, maybe. But yeah, always check the back seat.
That is so fucking scary. Oh my God. No.
And that's why I did this one, because that shit always freaks me out. And anytime I'm watching any type of horror movie, even if there is no one in the backseat, I'm like, check the backseat!
Like, had the balls to smile at him because it's like he knew who he was. He drove.
He knew exactly who it was. It knew exactly who he was. He was just like, he was insane.
A killer or a crackhead. Either way, that's fucking scary.
And the dude has like no remorse, and he's like, yep, I was in your backseat. I took your mom's bike, and I'm just gonna ride past you riding it. And like the dude definitely got away with it because he just went back home, and yeah, that's just creepy to me. And this is why
I would have called the cops. I would have been like, nah, that was too creepy to not report it. Like, honestly, just for the record, like in case he does some crazy.
Just to write it down and to like, I would do the same thing. Like, I know I'm probably never going to catch the guy. We're never going to get the bike back. I'm not going to know who it is, but I need someone else to know this, and I need it to be on record.
Right. And I think there's a lot of things that I've realized people make those mistakes listening to a lot of podcasts like Dirty John and things like that, like really big podcasts. People make the mistake of not recording it or telling somebody or tell police, because just because you get away with it and nothing happened to you doesn't mean that person's not going to build to something worse.
And also just because you think that nobody's going to do it, and you know what? Nothing might come of it. But later on, when something does happen, they're going to look back and be like, damn it, I should have done something about this report. Not, oh my God, I should have reported it. Because as you're speaking about Dirty John, I had listened to the podcast, had never watched the show. The show is now on Netflix. I went through it in like 2 nights.
Oh, Charlie and I are in the middle of it right now.
Oh yeah, I went through it 2 nights. Quickest watch ever. I love Connie Britton. Like, it was really good. And that's what happened there. Like, they didn't report something because, I mean, honestly, the cops weren't going to do anything about it. So there's certain things they didn't report. And it's like, I understand why they didn't. But then later on, it's like, that would have been, I would rather the police look back and be like, damn it, they reported it and I didn't do anything about it, rather than be the one that never reported something that was super important.
Right, exactly.
So always always report it. Even if you just want to tell somebody, like, dude is creepy and smiled at me while riding my mom's bike. Like, because what if he did it before? Or what if he does it again?
Yeah, or what if someone wants to like draw like artist rendering of what you saw? Like that, how do they know that person's not wanted for another crime?
Exactly. Like, what if that guy did it somewhere else and you actually saw what he looks like now and you have like the missing piece to the puzzle that would have solved something else? Like, you really never know. Just one, always check the back seat, and two, always report it.
Amen, sister.
But I'm really excited for this episode because Kristi has literally been talking about this case since we started this podcast. In the beginning of the year, in fucking January, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We didn't know what the format was. We didn't know when we were going to start this podcast. We didn't know anything. But Kristi knew that she was going to do this case for Christmas.
No pressure now that you guys all know that information. But yeah.
I know it's going to be so good.
You know, it was something that I knew I wanted to do, but it's perfect for the holidays, and you'll see why.
Yes.
The holidays. The end of December marks a big month for many religions with Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, etc. A time where people are generally on their best behavior.
Sure.
Except for one man killing gay immigrants. In the late 2010s, a spat of mainly South Asian and Middle Eastern gay men in Toronto's gay village were simply disappearing. The locals noticed almost instantly, but the police seemed unresponsive or unwilling to start investigating the vanishings. This is unfortunately something that has happened in the past, in Toronto especially in the 70s. And, well, let's be honest, it goes on more in the LGBT community than we like to face.
It just have, yeah.
They're underrepresented and people don't protect them as a community. And it still happens to this day, but it was really bad, you know, prior to gay marriage legalization and things of that nature. But by the time they realized that they had a serial killer on their hands, the situation had escalated into a horror film level. This is the insane story from Canada about a monster named Bruce McArthur, aka the Potted Plant Killer, or Serial Killer Santa, who knew exactly who to target to get away with his sick and deplorable fantasies. So these facts were researched from Wikipedia and the Fifth Estate and other things. Thomas Donald Bruce McArthur is his full name, and he was born on October 8th, 1931 in Lindsay, Ontario. He was raised on a farm in Argyll near Woodville, about 60 kilometers or 37 miles north of Oshawa. McArthur had a sister, but his house was always filled with children. His parents fostered troubled children from Toronto, at times having 6 to 10 kids in their care at any given time.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's a very noble thing, but my God, that's a lot of kids. The family was very well liked by the community, and they had a good rep. He attended a one-room schoolhouse outside of Woodville, Canada. He was known for winning singing contests, weirdly enough,
weird.
And for being a teacher's pet, aka a snitch, who told on his fellow classmates when they were being mischievous.
He was that kid that raised his hand and said, "You forgot to give homework." He was definitely that kid.
Or like, "Oh, Billy threw the chalk," you know, like he was
like,
that kid.
Like, who's the one
know?
talking? It was this one. Like, ugh, what a little shit.
Exactly, hate those kids. His mother was a devout Irish Catholic, and his father was a devout Scottish Presbyterian, causing arguments in the home, which really, I mean, A, is it really that different? And B, why get married if you have
I was just going to say that it's like, I get it, but like, this is kind of stuff that you discuss before you get married and have kids.
Bruce generally backed his mom, so he was kind of like a mama's boy.
Oh, yes, a mama's boy and a teacher's pet. Sounds great.
This led to ridicule from his strict father, who McArthur later said he felt he may have sensed his lack of masculinity or his homosexuality. I believe most parents know, but this religious family would never be okay with that lifestyle, especially at that time, and in rural Ontario, would never happen. Even McArthur himself had trouble accepting his sexual orientation. During his secondary education, he met and began dating Janice Campbell, where they both graduated in 1970, and then they got married at age 23. McArthur began working for Eaton's department stores around 1973 as a buyer's assistant in downtown Toronto, which this will be an important fact later on.
Okay.
A few blocks north of where McArthur was working, a gay village was forming on Yonge Street as same-sex adult sexual behavior had been decriminalized 4 years earlier in 1969. This was known at the time as the gay strip, so it kind of became like an area for the gay community. Between the late 70s and early 1980s, McArthur and his wife moved twice, settling into a home in Oshawa, followed by 2 kids, a daughter Melanie and a son Todd. He became very active in his church, eventually becoming executive of the church for no other reason other than keeping himself busy to avoid his homosexual feelings. So he kind of diverted that energy into religion.
Right. It's like, don't think about it, it'll go away.
Right. McArthur left his job in 1978 and began working as a traveling salesman for McGregor Socks. He worked alone, traveling from town to town from North Ontario and the greater Ontario area attempting to get stores to carry their products. So basically he was like a salesman, traveled around. That was kind of common in the 70s.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of people were traveling salesmen, knock on your door. Do you want to buy this? Yeah.
But he later worked as a merchandising representative for Stanfield's, a garment company, servicing huge company retailers like Hudson Bay Company and Sears. MacArthur began having sexual encounters with men sometime in the early 1990s. Friends of the couple noticed that despite MacArthur's overactive church schedule, his generosity and willingness to always host the Christmas lunch and give gifts of those ceramic Christmas houses, you know, like the ones that people collect. Yep. He enjoyed collecting those himself, but he seemed very unhappy. So it wasn't much of a surprise when more than a year later he came out of the closet to his wife, but weirdly they continued living together.
Oh, he had a beard.
She knew he was gay, but she didn't like end their marriage, which to me, I could never be like, my husband's gay and I'm not going to let him live his life, honestly.
It's kind of unfair. I don't know. I just think it's unfair. If you know that he is, just let him be who he is.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just weird to me. But it's also unfair to yourself because then you're not going to be with someone who...
people are going to be unhappy. Sometime after 1993, MacArthur's employment in the clothing trade came to an end and they faced bankruptcy, largely thanks to their teenage son Todd, who was obsessively making obscene phone calls to women he didn't know.
It's a very weird hobby.
This family sounds perturbed, to say the least. Like
they really do
right now. Like I was like, when I first started reading this, I was like, this guy, it's in his genetics to be weird. Like there's no other explanation for it. The couple mortgaged their home in 97 and declared bankruptcy in 1999. At this time, MacArthur separated from his wife, officially calling for a divorce in 1997 when he moved to Toronto, as there was no gay community in Oshawa at the time. He became a frequent patron of bars and restaurants of Church and Wellesley, Toronto's gay village. He moved into an apartment and even was in a 4-year relationship with another man. So at this point in his life, he's just like fully out.
He's being himself.
Right. When they broke up and his divorce was being finalized, MacArthur saw a psychiatrist and was prescribed Prozac, and he also began working as a landscaper. The first sign of what was to come came on Halloween of 2001. Where MacArthur had met a male sex worker on a chat line and the two met up for sex. A few weeks after his 50th birthday, MacArthur invited the man into his apartment to see his Halloween costume.
Right, you want to see my Halloween costume? Sounds like that's a ploy to get you in there.
For sure. This is when MacArthur decided to strike the man several times behind with an iron pipe that he was often carrying, which... Sorry, why is that important to say he's often carrying it? It means people knew he had it, which is super creepy to me.
Like, yeah, it's just like a little tidbit like, oh, yeah, he used to carry a pipe everywhere. Even if you're a landscaper, you don't carry that everywhere.
Yeah, you're not a plumber. What the hell do you need a pipe for? I don't understand. Yeah, why was that something that was like thrown in there?
Why was that okay and like a normal thing?
I couldn't take it out because I was just like, that's so weird. Like, it's such a weird fact.
Like, he often carried a pipe around. Like, you're saying he often carried around tissues or something. Like, what? I don't understand.
I don't get it either. The victim lost consciousness but managed to call 911. He had suffered injuries to his head and body and needed several stitches on the back of his head and his fingers, as well as 6 weeks of physiotherapy. MacArthur pled guilty to charges of assault with a weapon and assault causing bodily harm, and on April 11, 2003, received a conditional sentence of 729 days, so 2 years less a day.
Right.
He was also banned from the gay village, because this is, like the gay community.
He got banned from the whole community.
Yeah, well, of course, you attack somebody. I wouldn't feel safe as somebody in, already a close community for that to be occurring. So it made sense when I read that. And he was required to stay away from the victim, of course, but he never actually served any jail time. Canadians are nice to a fault, apparently. Even a fucking judge didn't throw this guy in jail.
I think we've noticed that with some of our Canadian cases that they're just a little too lenient with their sentences.
But I know that at the same time, as Americans, we're very strict with ours. So there's got to be a balance somewhere. But
he should have faced some sort of jail time. You did, that's assault.
Like, if he hit somebody in the head properly, he could have killed that guy.
He might have intended to kill him, and then the guy just, happens to survive it. That could be an attempted murder charge somewhere else.
And then to boot, he spent the first year of his sentence under house arrest, followed by a 6-month curfew and 3 years of probation. You got stuck in your house for half a year.
You were banned from the community anyway, so really you were probably not going to go anywhere. So it's like, really, what was your punishment?
But they also did this, which, I think we should implement more here in this country, which is MacArthur also had to submit his DNA to a database and was forced to undertake psychological and psychiatric counseling, including anger management.
Absolutely. That sounds like rehabilitation, which is what prison's supposed to be right here.
Even crazier than this light sentence, in 2014, MacArthur was granted a record suspension on his conviction, which was subsequently expunged from the record. And he did not appear in criminal background checks during subsequent investigations.
See, no.
again, as we talked about in the beginning with the Reddit, it's so important to keep these things somewhere where people know where to find it. Because, like, for someone to report something like this and then for no one else to ever be able to look it up is insane. Like, that's something every person should be able to investigate. If I'm dating this person as somebody in that community, I would want to be able to look that up.
Right. You should be able, whether you're dating them or employing them or anything, you have a right to know if this person physically assaulted someone else and was banned from a community and was put on house arrest. Like, you have a right to know who this person is. Expunging that type of record, you don't know who this person is. And at this point, even if you did your due diligence in researching this person, you're not going to find anything, and it's not through any of your fault.
Right, exactly. And then most of the records and exhibits were destroyed in 2010 in compliance with the Toronto Police Service TPS retention policy. The only surviving documents were the transcripts of the guilty plea and the sentencing hearing, a psychiatric report, a pre-sentencing report ordered during the trial, and pictures of the victim's injuries and the weapons. That's like in a box. You know what I mean? That's not somewhere where you're going to be able to...
Not just doing like a search and finding that. You'd have to physically know he did something and then go looking for the evidence.
Yep. But during this assault case, MacArthur registered with Recon, a gay fetish dating website for men into BDSM, where his profile noted his interest in submissive men. Again, that's something I feel like would be little breadcrumbs for future references of what's to come from certain people. Like, this is a known fact now. Criminology has proven that there are these steps people take. And that is a clear-cut sign to me. And if you had seen this person on a dating profile, like, you'll see, when we post pictures, this person does not look like a threat. You would never suspect that there was anything that he would ever do like this. He was also active on multiple gay dating websites, including, get ready for this, Silver Daddies, Man Jam, Grindr, Bear 411, Bear Forest, Scruff, Daddy Hunt, Squirt, and Growler. I mean, this guy was everywhere online. That's not somebody that, like, I understand, like, the gay community, they're about free love and, you know, they're a little more open, but that's a shit ton of profiles. Like, I don't know anyone that's been dating online that has that many profiles. Like, to me, that's kind of...
Not someone who legitimately wants to find someone, puts themselves on that many. Someone who's looking to scam people or looking for something else might have, like, I mean, Dirty John had like 27,000 profiles, but he was conniving and they're plotting something else other than genuine companionship.
Right.
So, like, that's just very suspect.
He also joined Facebook in 2011 and posted life pictures with parties, vacations, birthday dinners, concerts, things like that. Younger men of South Asian or Middle Eastern descent were in several pictures. So that's going to be important because, like I said,
right.
He
targeted a certain demographic.
He seemed to have a specific type, and even what he was sexually attracted to, as well as his victim profile. By this time in 2011, MacArthur had become a part of the gay village community and was a regular at his bars. Because remember, it was already expunged. No one knew what happened. That happened in 2011, so it's now a decade later. But MacArthur's 2003 banishment from Wellesley and Church remained well known, and he had developed a reputation for BDSM and rough sex. This is something the community was already aware of, even though it wasn't on the record anymore, because This is still a small community in Toronto.
Right.
People talk. Everyone knows you. If you're around all the time. I mean, we're from Brooklyn, and we know, despite having millions of people there, you're interconnected with everybody. So this even tinier community, everyone knows.
Everyone's going to know, right?
There was even an incident at a coffee house that his acquaintance named Robert James heard about from MacArthur directly. MacArthur reiterated the story to this guy.
So he wasn't at all ashamed.
No, he had been asked to leave said coffee house because I'm sure he wasn't invited everywhere.
Right. Some people knew what you did and they didn't want you around them.
But unlike most people who would just leave, MacArthur knocked all the glasses off the counter in a rage, and according to James, MacArthur turned red and screamed, "Fucking F blank, blank, blank OTS," I won't repeat that, "telling stories about me, and you're just like the rest of them. You think I'm crazy." After this, hearing his friend decided no longer to be active in his life.
I wouldn't be either.
This is something, again, this is more evidence of how this person treats others. You know, he's just like a shitty person. MacArthur, as mentioned before, became a landscaper, operating under the name Artistic Designs. A colleague who installed water fixtures of 3 of his projects in 2011 described MacArthur as more of a gardener, operating out of a little van with old tools. So he says he was a landscaper, but...
he was really a gardener, which you really even less need a pipe for.
You're right. He said that MacArthur was always accompanied by a white older male, so his lover perhaps, or like his cover lover, I don't really know.
I guess.
With a day laborer, usually of South Asian or Middle Eastern descent. So the reason I was excited to do this episode for Christmas was actually this fact. During the off season for his landscaping business, MacArthur portrayed Santa Claus at Agincourt Mall.
And this is the only thing I knew about this case, was that it had something to do with Santa and a guy.
If you took your kids to this mall to see Santa during the 2010s, your kids sat on a sexual predator killer's lap. Talk about bad Santa. Seriously.
Right. Talk about, I'm going to go, I swear, if I was from that area, I would go look at my pictures and be like, did I go see Santa this year? And I'm burning that picture and I'm taking my kid to therapy. Like,
well, there's a picture of him dressed as Santa. We're definitely going to post it on our website.
Why Santa? Why'd you have to ruin Christmas?
Well, remember, he's religious or supposedly
right.
religious. He has the Santa appearance. He's a big guy, has a white beard, white hair. He could portray Santa Claus. And he has a friendly face. He even has like little rosy cheeks going on.
He's
like
Santa.
This is somebody you would never expect to even be a part of like a violent part of any community, but let alone the gay community. It's just like, it's a mind-boggling case. The more I looked into this, I was just like, this is crazy. And speaking of kids, his son Todd had a hard time accepting his father as gay. In 2014, Todd was sentenced to 14 months in jail for making those obscene phone calls I mentioned before.
Okay, I have a question, real quick. So this guy assaulted another human being and got no jail time, but his son went to jail for making obscene phone calls?
Well, apparently it was for years and years, so I think it was probably...
Or because of the harassment,
right.
I guess?
And he's harassing females. Again, you have to remember the gay community is not very well protected.
Right. You're right.
So let's be honest here. This even happens in this country. A lot of these things are still an issue
overlooked
in the world. And in North America, we still have the best gay rights out of most of the world. So it goes to show you like the treatment around the world to the gay community is not fair, because a woman gets assaulted on the phone and the son goes to jail, but this guy gets hit with a metal pipe and the gay community tries to protect themselves, and he goes around knocking shit over at coffee houses and calling them the F word, and he can do all of this and get away with it. And that's what's so
And he can still
striking.
work and have a job and be Santa and all this other crap. He really just, it's typical, it's like really a showing of there was no consequences for his actions, because again, that house arrest was not a fucking consequence.
Exactly. But Todd was released on bail and was ordered to stay with his father at his Toronto apartment and to work at MacArthur's landscaping business, so that was part of the conditions. A former friend of Todd's visited one night and discovered the walls of MacArthur's bathroom was decorated with photos of naked men with erections. He already kind of has this weird, as we know, a lot of serial killers have this weird sexual prowess and they're not really ashamed to hide.
Definitely not if you're using it as wallpaper.
He said that most of the men appeared to be East Indian and said that Todd said that they were men whom his father knew. MacArthur didn't hide the fact, laughing over at it at breakfast.
Right, because it's totally normal to just have that shit in your bathroom.
In the midst of what appeared to be a seemingly normal life of a gay older man, in 2010, TPS began noticing that gay men, mainly immigrants, with striking similar physical features, and that they were Middle Eastern, and they were also called bears. Bears in the gay community means men with masculine traits like beards, had been going missing and not found. So they began investigations and a task force in an attempt to find these men.
Do you know how many men at this point had gone missing? Because it must have taken a lot for them to actually notice and care about it.
Well, we'll get into this right now. So we actually have a list of the victim pool, and I'm going to completely butcher a lot of these names. I apologize for anyone that is from the Middle East, and they're going to be like, holy shit, you fucked that up. I'm going to butcher a lot of these names. I'm going to try. The first person that had gone missing or recognized later on as one of Bruce's victims was Skandaraj, nicknamed Skanda, which I will refer to him as Skanda, Navaratanam, aged 40. He was MacArthur's first victim in that the Toronto police know about. The 40-year-old had moved to Canada from Sri Lanka in the 1990s as a refugee and settled into the life in the city's gay village. He had been described as someone who was very social and jovial and always ready to help out his friends. Skanda knew MacArthur since the early 2000s, and they had even dated.
Wow.
He disappeared in September 2010, abandoning a new puppy alone in his basement. So his friends knew something was wrong, and they called the police, because who would abandon their new puppy?
Their puppy,
Nobody.
yeah.
According to court documents, police found a silver bracelet belonging to Skanda in MacArthur's bedroom during their investigation. Like the vast majority of serial killers, he collected trophies from his victims that they were able to tie him to. Abdul Basir Faizi, aged 42, disappeared in December 2010, so 3 months after Skanda, which caused the Toronto police to launch a missing persons task force called Project Houston, which was shut down after 18 months due to, quote, lack of evidence of criminal activity. So even though they knew 2 Middle Eastern men had disappeared, they literally could not find well, was it a crime? Did they disappear? Did they walk away? Did they immigrate?
Did they run away? Did they go back home? Did they go to another country? Like there was, yeah, I get it.
But Abdul was married and a father of two. He split his time between the Toronto suburb of Brampton, where he lived, and his social life in the gay village downtown. His family reported him missing, but because he hung out in the gay village secretly, his disappearance was unseen by the Toronto's LGBTQ community. They didn't know because he's living this double life. So the cops wouldn't think to go to gay village because Abdul's straight. He's married, he has kids, you know, so as far as they knew. Abdul's car was found abandoned near a home that MacArthur had access to at the time of the killing, according to court documents. The next victim was Majid Kayan, 58. Like Abdul, Majid was believed to have lived two separate lives, one with his family and one in the village. Majid was an Afghan immigrant and the youngest of many siblings. He had a wife and children and also frequented many of the bars in the village and kept an apartment in that area. This guy led like a completely separate life. Like he had a place to stay in Gay Village. His adult son reported him missing in the autumn of 2012 when he could no longer reach out to him. MacArthur was questioned by the police at this point, but he was more questioned as a witness than a suspect.
Wow.
He told police that he had employed him as a landscaper helper and claimed to have a brief sexual relationship with him. As many serial killers do, they are really good at lying. So he just kind of told them, oh yeah, I know him, you know, we hooked up, I gave him a job, I don't know where he is. And they let him go. Police believe Majid was killed around October 18th, 2012. Sarush Mahmoudi, 50, was a refugee from Iran and was reported missing by his wife. Police believe Sarush was killed in August 2015, and they eventually found a coat with his DNA in MacArthur's van. 37-year-old Karushna Kumar Kanagaratnam came to Canada on the MV Sunship in 2010, a ship carrying almost 500 Sri Lankan asylum seekers that arrived in Canada that summer. So this guy took some epic journey across to get to Canada. Why would he disappear? Why would he not want to be here when he came across in this super dramatic, populated way? His refugee claim was denied and he was ordered to be deported. Police and his family didn't report him missing because they assumed he was in hiding.
That he got deported, right.
Once again, MacArthur found the perfect targets because you're already in this small community, but then you're finding other men that are secretly living this other life, and they're ashamed because they come from countries where you can be killed for being gay.
They have wives, they have children, so nobody knows about this. He chose the perfect victims.
Exactly what I was going to say. Perfect profile of people. Police have said it's unclear how Krishna came into contact with MacArthur since he had no clear ties to Toronto's gay village, but evidence suggests he was killed January 2016. Dean Lisowick, age 47, was MacArthur's sixth victim, but unlike the others killed by MacArthur, he was never reported missing due to the fact that he was staying in homeless shelters in Toronto and worked in the sex trade.
So again, sex workers,
immigrants,
homeless, nobody's looking for this person.
It's so terrible that he knew that no one would care enough to look for these people. But the funny thing about Dean Lisowick's case is that he was on drugs and stuff, but he actually had a kid. So a lot of the suspicion isn't that he was secretly gay. It was that he was surviving by sex. And so it's kind of different from the other men that were looking for sex. He was doing it out of a desperation. So Dean is believed to have been killed sometime around late April 2016. MacArthur kept some of Lisowick's jewelry, which police later found in his apartment. So it's so crazy that all these people keep these trophies and stuff because that's always their downfall.
It is, because without finding that stuff in his apartment, it's all probably just circumstantial coincidence. No, they're not really sure. And then you get a trophy and they find it, and that's what ties you to it.
Definitely. Salim Essen was 44, originally from Turkey. Salim came to Canada in 2013. He disappeared from his home near the village in April 2017. It is said that Salim was a friendly, kind-hearted, open, passionate person who loved learning new things and exploring new places. Salim's brother said in a family statement, quote, "His tender and kind humanity came before everything else." MacArthur kept a notebook owned by Essen, which later the police found in the serial killer's apartment. The final known victim to MacArthur was Andrew Kinsman, 49. But what's interesting about Andrew is that he's a natural-born Canadian citizen.
I was going to ask, doesn't sound Middle Eastern.
Andrew was active in the city's LGBTQ community, and his friends hung posters of him missing when they went to his apartment after a few days and saw that his 17-year-old cat had no food and water. He had that cat, his whole cat.
Yeah, you don't have a cat for 17 years and then not feed him.
Right, so they knew right away something was wrong because Andrew would never not come back and take care of the cat. So they hung up posters around this village and nearby Cabbagetown where he went missing. Soon after this, police launched a task force, Project Prism, to investigate Andrew and Salim's disappearance. So they're realizing that all these gay men or, men that hang out in the village are going. So they keep implementing these tasks, assuming these are different cases and different people disappearing. It's not Canada. They're so rare of a serial killer. Like, it's just not something that they would even consider at this point. Andrew's sister described him as someone who, under his, quote, gruff demeanor, cared deeply about people and championed social justice issues. He was an extraordinary, quirky, and caring individual. Police believed Andrew was sexually involved with MacArthur. In Andrew's diary, he wrote down he would be meeting Bruce on June 26, 2017, the day police believe he was killed.
So that's a big thing there.
Exactly. So he was able to actually record it down, which I think most of the other men didn't do. And this is an interesting change for MacArthur because he normally only attacked immigrant men.
Right. And people who weren't going to write any type of record or tell any friends that they were going to meet, nobody was ever going to have, like with the other ones, there was, other than the couple that they, like that guy that they brought him in as like a witness, that he might have known, they don't even know how he knew some of these men because again, they were, keeping it a secret. They were living double lives. But now then you pick the guy that has no reason to hide it and wasn't hiding it.
And not just that too, MacArthur had like 85 profiles in different websites. So if they went on like a Grindr, maybe they met on Bear Forest. There's so many different tracks for him to find all these different.
I wonder what made him change his demographic.
I don't know. I don't know if he was just attracted to him and decided to kill him. I don't know. And like, not only that too, he chose somebody who was active in the community.
Right. Not like the other men who were hiding. They were immigrants and a lot of them were married and they were living double lives. And again, weren't going to document it, weren't going to tell anyone. One of them was about to get deported. So like there was really half the families didn't even know if they were really missing. And then you go and you pick the complete opposite, a natural born citizen, someone who was out in the community, active in the community, definitely was going to keep a record if he was going to meet a man, because what was his reason on hiding it? And that sounds like it's his downfall because you picked the opposite of what you were doing.
And a lot of what I was reading, a lot of people said if he had never killed Andrew Kinsman, it's very possible he would have never been caught.
He would have kept going and nobody would have ever really caught him because how would they have caught him if he was going to keep going after that same group of victims that were so well targeted?
And it's also interesting how they catch him. They saw Bruce in the diary. So what they decided to do is that June 26, 2017 day, there's a surveillance video they were able to locate outside of Andrew's residence, and it showed a person matching his appearance. So Andrew's appearance approached a red vehicle, but it didn't include a license plate or a clear picture of the driver. So they got like the side of the car. Chrome sighting identified it as a 2004 Dodge Caravan. There were more than 6,000 similar models in Toronto, but only 5 were registered to someone named Bruce. Of those, the only 2004 model belonged to Bruce MacArthur.
And I feel like it's always like a car that's someone's fucking downfall, but it was the fact that he wrote it down, because with the other victims, they have a roundabout date that they went missing or like an estimated date that they died. But with this writing down specifically of, I'm going to meet Bruce on this day, they were able to then go find the surveillance. And like, I think it was just so very important that he chose someone that documented something, because had they had specific dates for any of the other men, they probably would have found him meeting with them, but they didn't.
Exactly.
That's insane.
And then the other Bruces were also eliminated as the suspects because they didn't have a 2004 Dodge. So it was literally just him. He was the one that owned that car. His name is Bruce. He has a red car. There's a video surveillance of it.
Yeah, like what are the chances that another Bruce with a caravan is meeting this dude? Like,
or what? Another Bruce lent the other Bruce a Dodge, a 2004 Dodge? No way. It's not possible.
And it's not like it's like a black Camry or something. It's like a red Dodge. Like, that's just a distinct car.
By late August or September, they matched the car from the surveillance video of MacArthur's apartment, but that car was no longer at his apartment. So police began tracking MacArthur's movement from this point on, going as far as obtaining a log of his key fob for his apartment and tracking down the new owner of the 2004 Dodge Caravan, which the new owner confirmed he purchased from MacArthur on September 16th, 2017. So he got rid of the car. And I don't know if he knew that there could have been a possibility he was filmed. I don't know if...
Or he just decided to get a new car.
He heard rumors, or I don't know if he was like, hey, I've killed 8 people in this car. I should probably get rid of it for the DNA. Who knows what the thought process was, but he sold it to this guy and the guy confirmed it. So DNA evidence from MacArthur's van matched Andrew, Kinsman, and Salim, which allowed the investigators to obtain a general warrant for MacArthur's apartment on December 4th.
And that's when they find all that other stuff that he kept from all the other victims.
Exactly. Police, however, then covertly entered MacArthur's residence and cloned his computer's hard drive. Because they were able to sneak in with the general warrant on his computer, which...
You're gonna find all his profiles.
Every single fucking human being is stupid and puts every single thing on their computer. And I understand that cops would have found it if it was in paper or documented form because I'm sure they looked high and low in this apartment. But it's just insane to me that this is what was on his computer. The investigation picked up then when the two pieces of evidence came to light, directly connecting MacArthur to the disappearance of Salim and Andrew. A partial download from MacArthur's computer, which was going through forensic analysis of deleted files, showed post-mortem photos of the victims.
Oh my God, what an idiot.
So he took pictures of them dead and put it on his computer. And was what connected him to this entire thing. So stupid. I'm glad he did it. I'm glad he's stupid.
Oh no, thank God he's stupid, because then that's how you got caught. But it's just like, dude, you're an idiot.
Yep. After this, round-the-clock surveillance was put on MacArthur with instructions that MacArthur should be immediately arrested if, quote, observed alone with anyone. Police officers surveilling MacArthur decided to apprehend him shortly after when they saw a young man enter the Thorncliffe Park apartment on January 18th, 2018, believing this man's life was at risk.
My God, it could have been. It probably was.
Wait a minute. It's crazy.
Because it's not crazy already.
Insane. Yeah, if it's not crazy enough. So get this. Because they were watching him around the clock, this man is literally alive today. Because MacArthur was arrested during this encounter with someone who was definitely going to be his ninth victim. A man only identified as John went to MacArthur's home with him that January 18, 2018, where he was handcuffed to the bed and had a black bag placed over his head. When John managed to get the bag off, MacArthur tried to tape his mouth shut. It was at this moment police knocked on the door. This is no doubt, like, the guy is screaming for his life, handcuffed to a bed. There's no, oh, this is what we're doing. This is BDSM.
Like the other ones you could have maybe debated, but you definitely can't debate that.
Police found a hard drive that contained photos he took of his victims. Some posed nude in a fur coat with cigars between their lips. At least one victim had his eyes taped open in the photos. The photos were stored in 8 individual folders, with a 9th folder having been created.
Oh my God, that was for the guy that oh man, they really saved this dude's life. It's like he preemptively just like made the folder. Like, that's just sick.
He knew he was going to kill this man. He knew he was going to take photos. I mean, it's
so he can't even say that it was crimes of passion or that he thought of it afterwards. It was premeditated. You made a fucking folder for him.
Definitely. Evidence found in MacArthur's apartment shortly after this arrest prompted investigators to charge MacArthur with 2 counts of first-degree murder and the presumed deaths of Andrew Kinsman and Salim Nassim. Their bodies had not been found, but police said they had a pretty good idea of how they died. Yeah, you'd think.
No shit.
At the time of MacArthur's arrest, police believed he was responsible for the deaths of other men and were mostly concerned with identifying these victims. They actually coordinated with other police services, tracing MacArthur's whereabouts and his online activity. By the end of January, police were investigating an alleged serial killer suspecting he had concealed evidence by burying bodies across the city. This is an ongoing case in unprecedented in Canada history with hundreds of officers involved. Everybody joined in because they realized that they were like, holy shit, this guy has been killing for who knows how long. He has several folders. We can't find a body. He's a landscaper. And before that, he
knows exactly. Right. He could have literally buried them anywhere and hid behind his job. And no bodies were found, right? Like, none of these victims, any of their bodies were never found.
Well, we'll get into that right now. Additional charges were laid at the end of February. The investigation was expanded to outstanding murder cases, hundreds of missing cases, sudden death occurrences, coordinating with other Canadian and international forces. So this became like an all-out, gotta find out who this guy has killed. Police executed search warrants on January 15th at 5 properties associated with MacArthur and his landscaping business. So they even had to check his former clients' houses because that's a perfect way to get rid of things. Like, you put it on someone else's property. I mean, cadaver dogs took a strong interest in large planter boxes on January 19th. These planters had been frozen to the ground, requiring heaters to thaw them. A large planter was wrapped on January 22nd and brought to the coroner's office. On January 29th, police announced they had found the dismembered skeletal remains of at least 3 people in 2 12-large planter boxes seized from the residence where MacArthur had done work.
He did use these people's residences to bury the bodies.
Put people's human skeletal remains at his landscaping jobs. Although the remains had not been identified, police had gathered enough evidence to charge MacArthur with 3 additional counts of murder in the presumed deaths of Majid Kayan, of the project's Houston subject, Sharush Mahmoudi, who disappeared in 2015, and Dean Lissowis. As of now, MacArthur on February 9th, 2019, was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. So that's it, right? Well, some in Canada say no way, and Honestly, as amateur sleuths of criminology, I know Vicky and I are going to have to agree now.
Oh, definitely not. No.
And here's why. So we're going to kind of track back. If this isn't a crazy enough case, I'm going to kind of boggle your mind a little more right now. So be prepared. The LGBTQ community has come far from where it was. Despite the attacks and attempted pushbacks on these changes, it has gotten safer in North America than it once was, and this includes Canada, specifically in Toronto. As mentioned before, in 1969, same-sexual activity was decriminalized in Canada. Yes, it was actually illegal, and you could get arrested as consenting adults for sexual activity prior to that. This allowed for what you've heard me refer to as Gay Village in downtown Toronto. But in the 1970s, it was only the gay strip, a street of gay clubs, bars, drag shows, other fabulous sources of fun and entertainment for the community. Despite the love for one another, not everyone loved this idea. The anti-gay population and even the police were spiteful towards them. Police were always around the strip. They didn't stop people from throwing eggs and other items at people during drag shows, but a person would be fined or go to jail for jaywalking.
That makes sense.
Yep, the gay population felt the police were there to enforce laws, but not to protect them. The final shot came in 1981 when the disparity between police and the community would reach a climax with something now known as the 1981 Toronto bathhouse raids. According to the Canadian Encyclopedia.ca, on February 5th, 1981, patrons of 4 bathhouses in downtown Toronto were surprised by 200 police officers in a series of coordinated raids called Operation Soap.
That is fucking excessive. Why do you need 200 police officers?
And not just that, Operation Soap,
Yeah.
that's completely fucking, discriminatory.
Oh, yeah.
Law enforcement officials claim the raids resulted in 6 months of undercover
Yeah, I'm
work
sure
into
it
an
is.
alleged sex work and other indecent acts at each establishment. Bathhouse patrons were subjected to excessive behavior by police, including verbal taunts about their sexuality. When the night was over, 286 men were charged for being found in a common bawdy house, while 20 were charged for operating a bawdy house. It was, up to that point, the largest single arrest in Toronto's history. So it sounds like, oh, it's this big sweeping success. No. Most of these men arrested were found innocent on the charges.
Because they weren't doing anything wrong. They got arrested for being gay. That's what it was.
Yep. The raids marked a turning point for Toronto's gay community, and as the protests that followed indicated they would no longer endure derogatory treatment from the police, media, and the public, this led to protest and complete distrust of the cops, which, why wouldn't it? So this kind of gives you a sense of all the tension in the community. Mm-hmm. Besides fearing the police and the general public, there was something more sinister that had happened before this, something dark and discreetly looming in the air: the murders. In 1975, a University of Toronto lecturer named Harold Walken, who was not openly gay with his family, was found in his bathroom nude, tied up with stab wounds from front to back. His case remains unsolved. From 1975 to 1978, 13 more men would be found in a similar fashion, bound, beaten, and brutally murdered. One victim was described as an overkill victim with over 100 stab wounds.
Jesus.
All these cases are still cold. Remember that teeny tiny detail I mentioned about at MacArthur? He worked at Eaton's department store in the 1970s in downtown Toronto, just a few blocks south of the gay strip.
Oh, shit.
When MacArthur was arrested in 2018, he was 66 years old, and let's face it, old. Not old in terms of life, but for serial killers, he was up there, and this is backed by science. According to the Murder Accountability Project, a website run by a former detective who has received his PhD in criminology, his site holds 800,000 cases from the U.S. going back to 1976, and the murder curve, as he describes it, is 31 for that type of offender.
Right. If you look at the Dahmers and the Bundys and all that, they were caught very, very young.
Right. Of all the 800,000 cases in this database, there are only 3 killers in the United States who were 66 who did what Bruce MacArthur did. So, is MacArthur a late bloomer, which is almost statistically impossible?
No.
Or was he able to, in his 20s through 30s, the formative years for the normal, typical serial sexual predator, evade police in the height of all this other tension? The murders in the 70s are eerily similar to MacArthur's crimes in the 2010s. A source suggested that MacArthur had targeted vulnerable men who did not have a fixed address or had not told their families that they were gay.
Oh, that's not unlike what he was doing later on in life.
Exactly. Criminologist and Western University professor Michael Artfield said that the alleged method of disposal suggested a sophisticated killer who had developed his craft, and as most serial killers begin in their 20s, the crimes could go back several decades and represent the longest run of a serial killer on record. MacArthur's past as a traveling salesman suggested to John Bradford, a psychiatrist and expert on serial murderers, that the police might have a province-wide investigation ahead of them. So all of Toronto, all of Ontario, they're gonna have to look.
They are, because again, traveling salesman, it means you can't just isolate him to where he lived. He was literally all over.
Right. And the scope of the investigation was expanded at the end of February 2018, looking at outstanding murder cases, hundreds of missing persons, and again, coordinating with all of these people. But police had received several tips from around the world, including countries where MacArthur had vacationed. This investigation will take years. Detective Sergeant Stacy Gallant of the TPS Homicide Cold Case Unit said that they have active crime scenes of the investigations took precedence over revisiting cold cases. So they're just still trying to figure out.
Right, because he still has these
other 8 victims that they officially know of.
Right.
Each of 600 cold cases were being looked at consideration for further attention.
600
possible ties, because so many similar cases have been popping up, and now of course they haven't found anyone except Bruce MacArthur. They drew up a list of 15 homicide cases linked to the gay village and fitting the general profile the victims identified this for. So as far as the community knew, there was 14 homicides, but they have found 15. So who the fuck really knows? Investigators began reviewing the cold cases dating between 1975 and 1997 for a possible connection to MacArthur. By mid-July, forensic testing related to the cold cases were underway, searching for links to MacArthur. But as of February 2018, homicide detective David Dickinson said they have not found any links between MacArthur and these cold cases. Toronto crime journalist James Dubrow said that the allegations suggest MacArthur would make him the deadliest known serial killer in Toronto and, quote, the most prolific gay serial killer in Canada. With all these murders going back 40 years, the scary similarities between them, MacArthur's age, and the insane manner of disposing the victims, my money would be on him being responsible for more than what they even suspect. With a little bit of luck and a lot of police work, maybe one day, friends, family, and the community may heal from the wounds that MacArthur's left, but something tells me he will never come clean, and that he'd rather discuss the times he placed kids on his lap dressed as Santa. And that is the case of Bruce MacArthur, the serial killer Santa.
I wish people could see my face right now.
I wish you guys could too.
He could be the most prolific serial killer in history, because right now we just named Samuel Little the most prolific one because he was linked to over 60. This guy definitely had hundreds. Yeah. Hundreds.
From doing it from 20s to your 60s, and you were traveling, and your family didn't know for years.
You started killing at a time where DNA wasn't a thing.
And we all know that the way that they handle crime scenes now compared to 40 years ago is night and day.
And you still got away with it.
The funny thing is they actually do have evidence from some of that stuff. So they are testing it. But how well have they preserved it for 40 years? How long do we know? How many people touched that in between that time? We don't know. So creepy.
The crazy thing is that he had to submit his DNA as part of his sentence. And he still killed 4 years. So that just shows you a lot. It's insane to me. And this is so recent.
And this is that for 11 months. That's why I just couldn't wait. I was just this is too good for Christmas. I have to wait for Christmas, but I was dying to do it. This is my Christmas gift to myself, is doing this the episode that I really wanted to talk about, because I feel we know a lot in America about America, but we don't look up north ever. And Canada's our cool cousin, and they have crazy things too. They're nice people, and they're great and everything. But the thing is I think because you can hide in all these sheep, there's always that wolf that gets away. And we've discussed another case, the Dylan Millard case, which we did, and the level of deception there they're not used to. And even that database, they based it on the United States
not
cases,
Canadian
not
cases.
Canadian.
Right.
I just thought it was an interesting, crazy case, and if there's definitely any developments, I will absolutely bring it up in a catch-up or anything like that.
Going on.
The rest of this case, I'm still on top of it, guys. If there's anything that comes up, I will definitely bring it up in future episodes.
And now I'm going to tell all my friends not to take their kids to see Santa.
Hey, it makes sense. Now I understand why kids always cry on people's laps, because they're like, oh my God, this is a killer.
It's because they know something we don't know. All of our Canadian listeners are going to go look in their photo albums for those Santa pictures.
Should I sit on Bruce MacArthur's lap? So scary.
Oh, man.
But let's get into who does that. Let's laugh. Let's pick up the mood a bit.
Who does that? Who does that? Who does that? Who does that?
This is from our favorite HuffPost.
Woohoo.
And it's not from Florida, but it's from very close. It's from Georgia.
Oh, yeah, the neighbor.
So it goes, I'm laughing because I'm reading it. Man too intoxicated to work his steak and shake shift, robbed place instead.
How are you not going to get caught. What's wrong with you?
Quintarius Goins said he was too drunk to work, but Georgia police say that didn't stop him from showing up and demanding money while holding a coworker at gunpoint. Not a stranger, a fucking coworker that you see when you go work. You held them at gunpoint.
Dude, how many bottles of liquor did this person consume to think you were going to get away with this?
I need to know the blood alcohol level because let me tell you, I've done a lot of dumb shit when I'm drunk. I have never gone to work and robbed.
And put someone at gunpoint with my, like, no face mask, no anything.
Right?
Hey, you know who you are. It's like, Bob, let me fucking go. What are you talking
Right. It's like, hey, dude, how you doing? Come over here. Like, this happened in Oakwood, Georgia. Police in Georgia say a man called out of his steak and shake job because he was, quote unquote, intoxicated, then showed up anyway and demanded money while holding a coworker at gunpoint. The Gainesville Times reports 20-year-old, not even supposed to be drinking, 20-year-old Quintarius Goins of Flowery Branch. You just robbed a place called, like, in a town called Flowery Branch.
Oh, no. Does anything happen in a town called Flowery Branch?
Apparently, is charged with offenses including aggravated assault. Oakwood police investigator Todd Templeton said Gowans called out on Thanksgiving. See, he probably had family drama because he had to get drunk. He called out on Thanksgiving, which I'm just going to point out, you should not be making anybody work at a Steak and Shake on Thanksgiving. Went to the restaurant that night and held a gun to the coworker's head and demanded money. Police say responding officers arrived to see employees running from the business, which had customers at the time. Police say an apparently still intoxicated Gowans briefly raised the gun at officers before dropping it. He was arrested after a brief struggle during which a stun gun was used. It's unclear if Gowans has a lawyer. So that's gotta be a thanks.
He can't afford a lawyer. He's a 20-year-old fired fast food employee
Right?
who was drunk and held someone at gunpoint. You going to jail, bro. I'm sorry. Like, that's just how it's gonna be.
I can't say you don't
Get a
deserve
really
it.
Good public defender. That's all I can tell you.
Talk about a dramatic ass Thanksgiving. Again, makes you grateful for yours because you didn't try to rob your place of employment.
That is so freaking funny.
Pretty sure he got fired.
Yes, to say the least.
At least fired.
At least.
At least fired. I wish I knew how much he drank. Like, how was your Thanksgiving great and you got drunk, or did you have drama and you got drunk? Because I feel like you had to have a negative drinking experience in order for you to go to your place of employment and rob it.
He definitely, like, stole from his dad's liquor cabinet and just was like, fuck this. And that's what happened because, you know, who, like, especially on Thanksgiving, they're vigilant about who they sell to. So there's no way he didn't get that from, like, a family home or something. That's so funny.
Again, done a lot of stupid shit while drunk. Never
held anyone at gunpoint, that's for sure.
Never held anyone at gunpoint, never showed up at my job drunk. You know, the funny thing is he knew enough to, like, call out of work. So he was, like, responsible up until that point. But he did call out drunk.
Yeah, but completely blacked out nonetheless. So, yeah, that's pretty crazy.
So there you go.
I hope you guys have a great holiday, whatever you celebrate. I hope there's as much fun drama as you want or as little drama as you don't. You know, we're going to be back for season 2. Don't worry. We do have a drop date. It's going to be later in 2020.
As soon as we have an official date, you guys will for sure know.
Yes.
In the meantime, you got these little bonus episodes and you've got 30-something episodes to re-listen to. And our merch store, of course, which in case you didn't know, dropped on Black Friday, is still up. Definitely shop it. Maybe not in time for the holidays, but I'm sure you could still use a shirt because it's cold. Our merch store, and all the information is up on our Twitter, up on our Instagram, and up on our website, theearieamericas.com. So there's links all over the place for you to go shop there. Watch us on YouTube, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, email us your weird, crazy, if you sat on Bruce MacArthur's lap, we'd love to hear about it. I never know how to end these episodes or start them, and I haven't gotten any better, and I can't promise that I'll get any better for season 2. I'll probably get worse.
It's fine. We'll deal. But most importantly, stay weird, Americas.
Bye.